afternoon, everybody. We're here this afternoon at a press conference in the Executive Council room following the shocking shooting yesterday at Sandy Brown Cemetery. And first of all, I think on behalf of everybody here, we want to express our condolences to the two people who lost their lives yesterday, to their families and friends, and to those who suffered pretty shocking injuries as well. This afternoon, I'm really pleased that we have a cross-party representation here from both the government and the opposition, which I think is an evidence of the seriousness of the current situation. I'm going to start by turning to the Commissioner of Police to give us an update. I will say a little bit more about additional resourcing to meet current events, and then I will turn to the Premier and to the Leader of Opposition to say a few words. So I will turn to you, Commissioner, if I may, to give us an update.
Thank you, Governor. I would just like to echo the comments that the Governor's made in relation to this shocking incident and extend my sympathy to the families of the deceased and also my best wishes for a speedy recovery to those who were grievously injured yesterday. So at about 12:50 p.m. on Wednesday, the 20th of December, a shooting incident occurred at the Sandy Ground Cemetery, where the funeral of the late Alessandro Miguel Mussington was being held. During the interment, two masked persons approached those in the funeral with what we believe to be automatic weapons and fired a number of shots before making off and allegedly escaping in a white Suzuki Swift car. As a result of this indiscriminate shooting, 5 persons were shot, 2 of which are unfortunately now deceased, and 3 were taken to hospital on yesterday. 2 of the deceased are now known as John Kennedy, 19-year-old from Long Bay, who was pronounced dead at the scene, and a Mr. Edwin Henderson, aged 74 years, from St. Martin, who was attending the funeral and unfortunately died on arrival at the hospital. 3 other persons were grievously injured, one of whom will have life-changing injuries and remains in hospital. 2 others received wounds but have since been released from hospital. Immediately, a critical incident was announced. An investigation was commenced. That remains ongoing. Currently, we have 3 persons in custody in relation to the incident yesterday. They're being questioned and will continue to be questioned. At the scene yesterday, we recovered a number of items which we believe to be of significant interest to the investigation, and that includes the white Suzuki Swift that we believe was used as the car to get away from the scene. That concludes my statement in relation to yesterday's incident.
Okay, I'm going to take questions at the end, if that's okay. So I know one of the questions will be about resources and how we're going to respond to this incident. So let me just provide a little bit more information about police and other resources. Following the budget debates, the Government of Anguilla has increased the budget for the Royal Anguillan Police Force, enabling the Commissioner to recruit 15 additional police officers. He will choose the best people, obviously, whether they come from Anguilla, the region, or the UK or elsewhere. There will also be money for a new forensic manager, which will be very important in terms of the forensics that are needed to go after these criminals. In addition, you'll remember that we committed, after the murder in the summer, to 4 additional UK detectives. That was for a period of 4 months, but yesterday the UK confirmed that they would be allocated for at least a year to follow through on the investigations. We will also have a specialist financial investigator coming in the middle of January from the UK, providing additional skills. And we will also have someone coming to scope out emergency response facilities. So you will have heard a commitment to CCTV. We're very keen that that is part of a broader emergency response. So we will be scoping that. We'll have someone from the UK to look at how we scope that. There is other resource coming, which I won't bore you with. I would also say that the UK stands ready to respond to any requests from the Commissioner for specialist assistance, specialist technical assistance that he needs to follow up on this crime. Everybody is committed to as robust a response and as an effective response as possible to ensure that those responsible are behind jail for a very long time. Let me leave it there. I'm happy to take questions at the end, but let me now turn to the Premier first and then the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon, all. Certainly, yesterday was a difficult day, and today not much less, because we've lost 2 persons in this indiscriminate attack. Horrific is certainly what I would describe it as also, because it touches the very soul of being Anguillan. This we still consider to be foreign to us as a people, and here we are dealing with it, and it seems to be escalating, and the location now where it's happening in terms of this type of event is one that we cannot just sit idly by and let happen. Not that I have every confidence in the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Robert Clark, that he is using the resources, and we have committed to resources, as Excellency has stated, because we feel this is of utmost importance and a priority that we curb this gun violence. And we know with the Gun Crime and Violence Committee that was held at the House of Assembly that there were recommendations made, and there are commitments that are being made based on that. I just want to assure the people of Anguilla that we'll do everything within our power. And I certainly know that Her Excellency and her office, the UK government, the Commissioner, and the RAPF will commit to stamping this out as best we can, as soon as we can, because it is necessary for us to retain the reputation of Anguilla and to save the lives of Anguillan people. And so I'll just plead to those who know something to say something. The email, confidential email address, www.gov.ai/911. Please use it, or call 264-497-5333 or 2333. Thank you.
Thank you, and good afternoon to everyone. Let me first thank the Honorable Premier for personally extending an invitation for me to be here this afternoon and to express the views of myself as well as the other members of the opposition in the Anguilla House of Assembly. I earlier today would have issued a press statement, a press release in relation to the gun incident which took place. And the fact that I'm here this afternoon sitting with the Premier, Her Excellency the Governor, the Commissioner of Police, underscores the fact that violence is apolitical. It underscores the fact that the progress of our country is apolitical. And on an issue like this, all other matters must be set aside for the interests, in the best interests of the country. As the Honorable Premier would have made mention, we have recently passed in the House of Assembly, or brought to the House, the report on gun violence. We also would have had the first reading of the Firearms Act and the Bail Act, and the members of the opposition are in full support of those acts being passed in their entirety. And there are any other number of steps which the government will be taking, and we would be in support as members of the opposition. And so I want to extend to the family, friends, and loved ones of those persons who were at Mr. Mussington's funeral our deepest condolences. It is very difficult to comprehend that while you are at a funeral recognizing the passing of a loved one, to have lost 2 other family members in that same setting as a result of a heinous act by some persons. And so today, as we sit here, we are looking at the loss of life of 2 additional persons and injuries sustained by other persons. That is something that is not acceptable in our country. When we look at the recent incidents of crime, we have to be alarmed at the age in which a number of our young persons are leaving this world. Not as a result of their own hand, but as a result of the hand of others. And as a community, as a people, as a nation, we must come together on this issue. And while we recognize and appreciate all of the efforts of Her Excellency the Governor, the Commissioner of Police, this is a local issue. This is an issue that we must address as a people. And if we are to get beyond this stage, then we must do everything in our power to support the police. If we know what is happening in our homes, then we must address it. We can no longer turn a blind eye to what is facing us in this country. And so, with that being said, you can be assured that on this matter in particular, the members of the opposition in the Anguilla House of Assembly and myself will be in full support of the steps that are being taken moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. So I will open the floor to members of the press to ask questions. If you could say who you're addressing your question to, and for those on behind the camera who's asking the question, that would be very helpful.
Lloyd Gums, Lloyd's Life. I want to ask the Premier, in reference to the CCTV cameras, what's the time frame in terms of having them here and implemented, installed?
Thank you, Lloyd. The CCTV, as you know, we have committed in the capital budget for that. The Commissioner might have been the better one to ask regarding that, but he has gotten some quotes from local suppliers, and certainly as soon as is feasible, we'll get those, get a contract, get them installed, and we are, as Her Excellency said, working on having in the monitoring center, so as a holistic approach to the having the CCTV cameras and having a monitoring room, and also for emergency response.
Okay, Mr. Commissioner, in reference to masks in the public, do you see any legislation and any laws being drafted for curbing ski masks worn in the public?
Thank you, Lloyd. That is certainly something that we can look at this year. I know that the government and the House of Assembly have a large piece of legislative work to do this year. Personally, if you're asking me, is it something I would like? Yes, it is. If you look up section or article 23A and B of the Public Order Northern Ireland Order back where I come from, I can require persons to take masks off, as can other parts of the United Kingdom. So would I potentially like to see that here? Yes.
I'm Elkin Richardson. I'm representing Class FM Radio. I want to direct about 2 questions to the Commissioner of Police. You mentioned, sir, that there are 3 persons have been detained and are assisting the Royal Anguilla Police Force with the investigation. My first question, sir, to you. You mentioned also about a white Suzuki motor vehicle. Mm-hmm. Would you keen to tell us whether or not any one of the persons in custody own that white Suzuki vehicle?
Thank you, Elkin. At this stage, it would be inappropriate for me to either confirm or deny who I have in custody at this stage. It is still a very robust and dynamic investigation, and until such times as persons are formally charged, I wouldn't like to say who I have in custody.
Would I be fair in asking, so if you could indicate what area of the island these persons reside or come from?
Again, for reasons of the investigation, and again, I don't want to heighten speculation or heighten tensions on the island by naming any particular area. I think it might be unhelpful. So if I can leave it at that, please.
My last question, sir. During your investigation that's carried out by the police, was there any thought taken as relates to reprisal shootings?
Yes, that is a consideration.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Felicia Henis, Radio Anguilla. Just to piggyback on Mr. Richardson's question, can you tell us what led to the quick apprehension of the three persons in question and the seizure of the car?
Thank you, Felicia. It's a number of lines of inquiry which would include CCTV and then information which has been received via the 911 government website.
Can you tell us how wide is the crime scene? We know that a portion or section of the cemetery has been cordoned off, but in terms of the markings of the gunmen, their footprint, what can you tell us?
Those forensic investigations remained ongoing today. That scene may be stood down quite shortly. In relation to what I've recovered, I really wouldn't like to say. I like to keep that close, but we have recovered, as I said in the initial statement, things which I believe to be of significant interest to this investigation.
I know persons are shocked, traumatized, but are you getting the feedback from the public, those who are present? Are you getting a number of statements? Are people coming in?
So
and
we are
reporting?
currently working through persons who we believe were at the funeral. You're quite right. There was, because I was there shortly after it happened, a huge degree of trauma and shock. And those who were there need some time to process that. And we have a list of names because we took them when we were there, so we will contact those individuals in due course.
Mr. Premier, the scene yesterday was a very horrific, terrifying, traumatizing scene for children and the elderly. I can recall the children screaming and running and crying. Is there any type of consideration of setting up a center, or even as I was speaking with DJ Hammer earlier, we can use our platform to have a broad-based service where we can have some counseling going on for those who were affected. Is there any plans to do any type of counseling for those who has been affected?
Yes, thank you very much. Certainly a very traumatic event. I've had several persons who were there that I've spoken with, including some of the family members, and just the general public shocked by the whole episode and the scene. I did say in my release that the Ministry for Social Development is providing access to psychosocial mental health services, and also we know that some of the pastors and reverends have made themselves available for persons who want to just speak to that. And I know that, so those are available if persons want to access those services. And certainly we can look into having a more formalized service. But that is important, that there is psychosocial support for those, and not only those who are present, but just in general. People of Anguilla are in shock with this incident.
To you, Mr. Commissioner, you mentioned a number of stem cells were recovered from the scene. I want to ask, so if by any stretch of the imagination, whether based on the stem cells that were recovered at the scene, if the possible type of weapons that were used to discharge these rounds, are they sort of new to Anguilla in terms of police collection?
So what I would say to you, Elkin, and thank you for the question, is I didn't actually say I had recovered spent shells from the scene. I said I'd recovered a number of items that would be of significant interest.
That would include stem shells, you think?
It includes a number of items which would be of interest.
Yes, sir.
If you're asking me, have I seen this caliber of weapon on the island before?
Yes.
Yes, I have. It is not a handgun, and from speaking to people at the scene, I would probably believe that it is a 5.56 caliber weapon that was used.
Any thought is given to probably getting some more UK help, and I think this mightn't come over good, but I still have to ask it in terms of having an island-wide sweep, because I'm more than certain they are not all the areas on the island who where you have residents having issues with the police. So the possibility might be considered where we can get some more outside help and do maybe a raid.
Well, if I can address that, and I think the Governor and the Premier have alluded to my ability to recruit more officers this year, and for that I'm very grateful. As part of that consideration, I would intend to put that advert out to the UK to see if there are officers from the UK who would be prepared to come and work for us in Anguilla.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Webster, were you able to speak to the family of the victims? And I saw that the Prime Minister of St. Martin, she issued a statement. Did she reach out to you, perhaps?
Yes.
What were your conversation like?
Yes, Prime Minister Sylvia Jacobs did reach out to me last night, and certainly she showed significant concern, also concern from one of the victims was from St. Martin that was over here, although Anguilla. I did reach out to the family of one of the victims. We're looking to get to the mother of the other victim in short order. But certainly it's very devastating event, and the family members are, almost in shock as to how it happened, where it happened, and what happened. And as you saw the statement from Prime Minister Jacob, she was very distraught also by the event, but was supportive in terms of us, dealing with this and then being able to respond in kind.
Commissioner, this is the festive season. We've seen a number of robberies over the weekend, and unfortunately this tragic event. Tell us how you're utilizing resources. How are you able to place officers at different locations, to assist other business establishments during this time?
So thank you, Felicia, for that question. So we have been assessing what events are on across the island. We're then matching that across to what risk we think might be attached to those events. And then we are allocating resources to those events based on that assessment. In addition to that, there will be additional police officers who are deployed from this evening to patrol, to give that high-profile presence to assure the community that the RAPF are there and that we are actively seeking to prevent incidents like this. In addition, I've spoken with my deputy, Forbes, in relation to the cancellation of potentially annual leave to bring officers back to assist with this inquiry and to look at enhancing the resources that I have available over the festive period.
I just want to direct one question to the Leader of the Opposition. You mentioned in your opening statement that you were invited here by, obviously, the Premier of Anguilla, and you rightly mentioned that the crime situation is apolitical. The thought that came to mind, any thought has ever been given to maybe the Leader of the Opposition and the government probably meeting on a quarterly basis to discuss matters of interest, because something like this got you all together. Other than that, what? So I just thought it would be a good idea that maybe it could come as part of the annual schedule, that maybe every quarter that the Leader of the Opposition and the Leader of Government Business could meet in a setting and discuss matters of interest to both, to Anguilla on the whole.
It's more of a suggestion, but
Yes.
I'm grateful for the suggestion that you have raised. I know that we were previously written to the Honorable Premier and indicated the opposition support and interest in assisting in any way possible in relation to addressing the issue of gun violence in our country. And so it is more a matter within the government hands, within the Honorable Premier and his members of government hands. But certainly from an opposition standpoint, we have no difficulty, and we certainly would be open to that sort of collaboration.
Thank you.
Mrs. Richardson Hodge, right?
That's correct.
Okay. What other measures you think that can be implemented at this time to assist with what is happening here in Anguilla?
Yeah, so there are a number of factors I think we need to be looking at, and I don't want to overstep the Honorable Premier, the work that's being done from the government end. But one of the things I have mentioned, certainly with the Commissioner of Police, is that with the passage of the Firearms Act and the Bail Act and the amendments to the Criminal Code, the punishment is more severe than they were in the past. And it is my view that there ought to be an amnesty period to allow persons to voluntarily remit their guns, bring their guns in, or leave them somewhere in a secure place, so that once this law kicks in, it cannot be said that persons did not have the opportunity, if they were in possession, no longer wanting to be in possession, that they didn't have the opportunity to remit those items. So that's certainly one thing that I think that there has to be widespread discussion, consultation. Persons have to be made aware that this is taking place, because at the end of the day, the tightening of these laws lead to deprivation, potentially deprivation of liberty. And so because of that, we want to ensure that they have the opportunity. That's certainly from the opposition's perspective, but again, I'm subject to the discussions and decisions made by the government. Thank you.
I'm happy to come back on that if that's helpful, just to say that that is a very helpful suggestion and something that we are actively looking at, a gun amnesty. It does take some very careful planning, both as to logistics and also to understand what legal framework you need. But that's something I've been discussing with the Commissioner and with the Premier. So that, I think that's a very sensible and helpful suggestion. Thank you.
Mr. Commissioner, we know that police are normally post patrol events. Given what happened yesterday, does it seem like going forward for police officers too to patrol funeral events?
Thank you, Lloyd, for that question. I think to say that every funeral needs a police presence is not necessarily correct, if I can put it like that. As I said to Felicia, I think that when we have something like this, that we risk assess it. Let me be very clear, I had no intelligence or any indication yesterday of any risk or any threat to that funeral. This was a completely reckless act, thoughtless, to do something like that at someone's funeral who is being respectfully laid to rest is utterly, utterly reprehensible. Utterly reprehensible. And if I could take this opportunity to appeal to the public in Anguilla, please help me to stop this. I have talked about a code of silence sometimes on this island. I will do everything to work with the people on this island to rid this island of the scourge of gun violence. But I need your help. I am getting help from the community, such as that in the period from May through to October, we took twice as many guns off the street as we did between January and April. So that tells me there is a willingness to tackle this problem. But I need to do it in partnership with the community. I need to do it in partnership with the governor. I need to do it in partnership with the government, the opposition, the clergy, and the press. But I need your help. There are people on this island who know where those murder weapons are now. I need to know. I need to take those dangerous weapons off the streets. So I appeal to the public. Please reach out. If it's to me, that's fine. If it's to a trusted member of the police, that's fine. If it's to a member of the clergy, that's fine. The one thing I can assure you is you will receive confidentiality. You will receive confidentiality from me. So please, please help the RAPF tackle this issue before there are more tragedies on this island.
I think that's probably a good place to leave this press conference with that appeal ringing in all of our ears. It repeats the appeal that the Premier and the Leader of the Opposition has also made. We don't want any more families to lose loved ones. So let's call this press conference to an end. We will update the Governor's Office website with any further information as soon as we have it, as will the Royal Anguilla Police Force. So please do look at those web pages. But for now, just thank to everybody who has joined this press conference this afternoon. And I wish you all a peaceful Christmas. Thanks.